He is the worst person. His name is Thomas Massie.
You're probably thinking to yourself, Clint, why are you so concerned with a small congressional race out of the great state of Kentucky? Why would you care so damn much? Well, let me tell you, they are pulling out all the stops. And this, even if you don't care about Thomas Massie, even if you don't like Thomas Massie, this story matters tremendously. And trust me, it is not going to get the national news attention that it deserves. No, I am not on his payroll. In fact, I've spent approximately $1,000 on this campaign, this reelection primary campaign, because I recognize it for the existential threat that it is, that this is the only independent, free-thinking, libertarian-leaning congressman or constitutionalist, even if you're not a libertarian. He's just a true blue, for real, conservative politician in DC who says and he promises things and he tries to deliver to the best of his ability. He rarely gets things passed, but when he does, they're always good things, like the Epstein disclosures or the Prime Act, which removed federal regulations when it comes to local farmers selling like beef products to consumers. He's just like a good old country boy. He also went to MIT. He's absolutely brilliant. He talks about the national debt a lot. He carries the torch of Ron Paul, as I said on Julian Dory's program. And the other thing I did on Julian Dory's program is we talked about the amount of money that is being funded to his competitor in this primary race and how astronomical it is, how, in fact, historic it is. They have spent $13 million. Miriam Adelson in particular has made this her pet project, that she is going to get Thomas Massie out of office. And if you know anything about Miriam Adelson or her deceased husband, Sheldon, their primary consideration when it comes to all political campaign contributions is a foreign country. It's not America. And she and her late husband have given an absolute fortune, a couple $100 million, to get Donald Trump into power both times. So they have a vested interest in Donald Trump. Donald Trump is doing their bidding and railing against Thomas Massie, and Thomas Massie is doing his best to stay in office and his best to deliver on the campaign promises that Donald Trump made to us and then broke. I am 100% doing this because I care deeply, because this guy deserves to stay in office. If there's anybody in DC, maybe in the history of DC, that deserves to stay in office, it's Thomas Massie. The real breakdown on this race is absolutely mind-blowing. So if you look at the demographic splits, like the age splits when it comes to who people are supporting, check this out. From age 17 to 25, I don't know why it's 17, Massie is a plus 25. Means he's running away with it. From 26 to 35, the Zoomers, plus 56. I mean, that's insane. Absolutely crushing it. From 36 to 45, my demographic, it's Massie plus 38. From 46 to 55, the Gen Xers, I think they're Gen Xers, Massie is plus 17. So from basically 18 years old to up to 55, Massie easily wins. So if the youth come out, he's going to win handedly. This is where it gets dark. From age 56 to 65, Galrain is up 18 points. From 66 to 75, he's up plus 35. And 76 and up, so basically the people on death's door, Galrain plus 33. So from 56 to 65, it's marginal, but basically the boomers. I hate to say it like that. I know there's a lot of boomers that watch this show that love Thomas Massie, that are libertarian or constitutionalists, and I love you guys. I'm not trying to dunk on you, but let's just be honest. Your peer group is absolutely destroying this country. I mean, if you can just have Donald Trump, who has betrayed almost every single campaign promise he's made in his second term, just come out and say, I want Galrain. That's all they need. And you may not like hearing it, but you absolutely know it's true. It's because they get their news from Fox News. It's because they're on Truth Social and Fox News and OAN or whatever else, and they don't know a fucking thing about Thomas Massie or Ed Galrain. And trust me, if they knew anything about either of them, they would despise Ed Galrain and they would absolutely love Thomas Massie. But they don't, because they're cloistered off into their little fucking information propaganda bubble, so they don't have a clue what's going on. So they're going to turn out and dutifully pull the lever for Ed Galrain. But the good news is that anyone under 55 that goes out and votes in Kentucky, by the way, early voting starts today. It ends on Tuesday. So from the time you're listening to this until Tuesday, you have an opportunity to save this country, or at least buy us some fucking time. But if you were to go on X, you probably couldn't even tell that this is actually going on, because if you look at the story that they're floating, this absolute, obvious, blatant hit piece against Thomas Massie from some lady who alleges that she dated him. I don't know that they ever dated or that Massie even knew her. Maybe they did. But there's this obvious BS story that got put out that I'm going to break down for you guys and tell you why I believe it's BS. But look at the people that are boosting it. You got, Cat Turd and all the usual suspects, all the people who are just overt, water-carrying, brain-dead hacks. And to be clear, as I've laid out in excruciating detail in prior episodes, I know for a fact that most of these people are paid. They are paid to do what they're doing. So Laura Loomer's doing her thing, and of course, the brain-dead piece of shit Will Chamberlain is also doing his thing. He says, you can't say that Thomas Massie isn't principled when he tries to pay hush money to an ex-girlfriend to stop her from revealing his bizarre conduct. He does so with his personal funds, not taxpayer dollars. Very libertarian. To which Viva Fry says, you're about to get hit with a defamation suit, homeboy. And then he follows it up the next day, and this is what Will says. Thomas Massie may not have offered Cynthia West money for her silence, but that is not what Miss West alleged. The NDA offer was made by Rep. Spart's office. So the story has already migrated. And I'm going to be honest with you, after researching this extensively, I can hardly even figure out what the scandal is. So Miss West alleges that she started to date Thomas Massie a few months after his wife tragically passed. And then a few months after that, she got a job after Massie apparently set it up for her, or allegedly, I should say, to move to DC around December of 2024. And then she got a job in Rep. Spart's office, who's another decent congresswoman. Rep. Spart says that she gave her a 90-day trial position, and at the end of the 90 days, they thought that her performance was poor, and they did not, elongate or extend that offer, so she was let go. And apparently Miss West decided that she wanted to file a complaint against Rep. Sparts, not Thomas Massie. And now her allegation, just 5 days before the election, is that Thomas Massie offered her $5,000 not to do so. That Thomas Massie offered her $5,000 of this sweet, sweet off the books cow money. No bullshit. That's what she says. That he has off the books money from his cow production. I don't know if it's milk or the beef or whatever, but she says that he offered her $5,000 not to file the complaint against Rep. Sparts. Why would Thomas do that? Why would he pay her to be silent about a complaint against one of his colleagues? I have no fucking clue. And if he did, I don't know why. And if he did, I still don't know why it's a big deal, honestly. So one, it doesn't make sense. Why is he paying this lady to not file a complaint against someone that's not himself? That's weird. But two, what is the actual impropriety on Thomas Massie's part? And three, Thomas denies all this. He says none of it happened. And Miss West's argument is that Thomas Massie was to be a witness. A witness to what? I don't know, but that is the claim. But she did not file an ethics complaint against Thomas Massie. There was no complaint filed against Massie. So what are we even doing here? Well, it gets weirder.
What, you have an offer of what?
Settlement for $60,000 to settle the case and for the retaliatory discharge and the Congressional Accountability Act violation with the Office of Victoria Sparts. But if I do that, then I have to sign an NDA, and so I can't do that.
The person that's interviewing her in that video is a lawyer named Marcus Carey, who lost to Thomas Massie in his congressional race back in 2012. So Thomas Massie's former opponent is interviewing this lady who has a claim against Rep. Sparts, apparently, and claiming that this is somehow devastating and should get Thomas Massie out of office. What? Stephen Doan, an attorney out of Kentucky, he says he claims West is under oath in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. An oath must be administered by a neutral third party. There is no third party in the video. Further, a lawyer asking the questions cannot put someone under oath should they seek to introduce it in court. It's a misdemeanor. The whole thing is a setup intended to look like a sworn statement. But it gets so much worse than that. Shout out to Stephen Doan. I don't know where this guy came from, but he absolutely broke this down in a way that is so damning for these claims. He says, as a family law attorney who has represented numerous victims of domestic violence, I have been deeply troubled by the circulating sworn statement from Cynthia West alleging emotional abuse by Congressman Thomas Massie. So she's not alleging, she's alleging emotional abuse. He yelled at her? I don't know. And for the record, I'm not playing dumb here. She doesn't make it explicit. She just says emotional abuse. We don't know what she's actually alleging at all. And by the way, she didn't, despite that, she did not file a complaint against Massie. So emotional abuse that wasn't worthy of a complaint, but she did have a complaint against Sparts. Okay. Continuing with the guy from Doan Law, he says, after listening to the statement twice, I was struck by the complete absence of any specific verifiable allegations. There were no claims of physical abuse, no harassing communications, no documented threats, and no evidence of any kind, only vague assertions without supporting facts. Out of professional duty, I examined the available record. Miss West has a documented history of making false abuse allegations. Notably, during the very period she claims to have been involved with Congressman Massie, she filed sworn accusations of emotional and physical abuse against the father of her children on October 1st, 2024. She swore under oath in an affidavit to these claims. However, after the court reviewed all the evidence, the allegations were dismissed in full. He goes on to say, I have sat with real victims, both men and women, who have endured genuine domestic violence and harassment. I have fought alongside them for protection and justice. It is precisely because of that experience that I find it so damaging when someone makes false accusations. It undermines the credibility of legitimate victims and erodes public trust in the system. Congressman Massie has earned my trust over many years to the point that I would trust him with my own children. These latest allegations appear to be nothing more than a desperate attempt to interfere in an election against a principled public servant who has consistently worked to protect women and families from real abuse and exploitation. False claims like these do real harm, not just to the accused, but to every legitimate victim seeking justice. And who would be those legitimate victims seeking justice? Well, it would probably be the Epstein victims, now wouldn't it? The very victims that Thomas Massie may have sacrificed his political career on the behalf of. And you may not connect the dots the way that I do, but just hear me out. I believe strongly, as I've already detailed in prior episodes, but I believe strongly that the Epstein network was a blackmail network, that it was being done on behalf of intel agencies. One of those intel agencies happens to be Mossad. Miriam Adelson happens to have dedicated her entire life to the defense of Israel. So is it fair to connect the dot that the promise, the political bounty of $25 million that is being put up to try and get rid of Thomas Massie might have something to do with the fact that Thomas Massie forced the passage of the Epstein disclosure law in Congress, and that it is ultimately very, very damaging to the intel agencies, including the foreign one that I just referenced? Yeah, I think that might be 1 + 1 = 2, honestly. They are doing everything in their power to oust Massie because, just like MTG, he actually said America first and fucking only, and he meant it. So, unfortunately, in today's modern GOP, that is impermissible. That is disqualifying. To actually prioritize your constituency, your own nation, is viewed as treason. Treason to the GOP, which is filled with fucking traitors. So when I tell you that I think this is the most important race in the country, I mean it from the bottom of my fucking soul. And I don't get loud and vocally behind political candidates almost ever. So you know when I do this, I mean it sincerely. I wouldn't have thrown $1,000 fucking dollars at the guy if I didn't think that this was super duper important. So I hope if you have any money to send, if you have any doors you can knock, if you can have any noise you can make on the internet, or if you know anybody in Kentucky, please call them, get them out there, and make sure that we defeat these fucking scumbags as they try to steal our country out from under us. And yeah, that may sound like hyperbole. It ain't. This is an existential moment. Please unify around this campaign. Do it. We've got 5 days left.
Great podcast. Clint is tight.